Hello everyone, it is the podcast. I'm Paul Machin. I'm joined in the studio by Chris Pajak and by James Sutton as well.
Come on, that's not his introduction.
The man, the legend, the one, the only, the James Sutton, ladies and gentlemen. Si, I need to be monitor in front of me. That'll be lovely. Let's get the housekeeping out of the way, rather than me do it subtly. The Mighty Reds are up and running in the league, which is great. Football has returned, and it returned with 3 big points. We've got a couple of kick-off questions we're going to get through. We're going to discuss the Norwich game. We're going to be talking about some fallout from the weekend in the generals, but it just gives me an excuse to talk about City and Spurs, to be perfectly honest. And then we're going to go into a bit of transfers at the end as well. So yeah, first kick-off question comes from Jess M82. What children's film scarred you for life, James Sutton?
Many things scarred me for life as a child, Paul. A lot of them I probably can't talk about on this show.
Wow.
If we're going to talk films, though, I think I can't go much further wrong with Labyrinth. Labyrinth really the opening. I don't think I've ever really got over the opening sequence from Labyrinth, where I don't know if anyone's seen it, but there's a baby in a cot, and the girl, the heroine of the piece, is
the
sister. She's babysitting, and all these creatures break in and take the baby and take her to David Bowie, who sings some songs with a sort of codpiece. It's all very extravagant, but I digress. The opening part of the sequence is truly terrifying. There's lightning and wind, and it's quite creepy, and the baby's gone, and then there's monsters everywhere. You can see my palms are sweating. I've never really got over it.
It's the speech pattern.
Legs we can't forget.
The speech pattern of terror. That's very good.
Oh, PTSD.
Yeah.
There is only one children's film that I think is the right answer to this, and that is Watership Down. I mean, are you kidding me? They literally, rabbits get stuck in a burrow. It's more of a bloodbath than Kill Bill when she's killing the crazy 88 at times during the film. The rabbit with the big red eye and all this type of stuff. It's terrifying. It's horrible. It's about 40 years old. It can't possibly be a children's film. It's ridiculous.
Do you know that it's still one of the most complained about shows whenever it gets repeated on TV?
Good. Quite rightly, I watched it when I was 36 and was still just as scared.
Well, they talk about like a desensitization of the youth. It's more and more and more. We get older and you become just, I remember going to see The Dark Knight and the bit where you see Two-Face revealed for the first time. Some kids watching, they burst out laughing. Like, what are you doing? It's horrendous, Parvy. But I think it's good to know that the stuff from our youth is so much darker, and I think there's because look, it's an animation, so this kind of like is a bit mad, but everything we watched was a bit darker and a bit grimmer and a bit grittier. Like you watched Indiana Jones films and never thought about it, but they are horrific.
Yeah,
absolutely
Pulls
horrific.
like a heart out of a chest, doesn't he? In one of them,
they're eating monkey brains. I mean,
yeah. Now this doesn't quite class as a children's film, in fact, not in any way, shape, or form. But there's a famous story in our family about how my dad made a PG edit of RoboCop for me.
Right.
So this is back in the day of VHS, of course, and back in the day of tape to tape, and that there's people of a certain age who have got no idea what we're talking about in this. But you'd have your VHS player, and you could he played the film and paused the recording over any of the horrendous violence. So the bit when he gets shot a bit at the start, I never saw that until I was about 18. And or anything with blood or gore, he cropped out. So it was a film about a robot policeman who beats a giant robot and
just helped everybody.
Yeah. And then that's it basically. But it's still.
I love your dad's commitment to the classics. Like, he needed to see this.
He can't wait.
But it's still scared. Ed 209 in RoboCop still scared the living shit out of me.
How old were you when you finally watched the unedited version?
I'd have probably been about 18, and I was like, gobsmacked.
That's not what's supposed to happen.
No, God, honestly, as I knew, but that film is horrendous. It's absolutely horrendously brutal. Let us know what kids' films scarred you for life in the comment section. And we'll go. Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, says Nigel Jones.
I can get that.
The Child Catcher in Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, says Scott. To be fair, the Watership Down is like the... Yeah, here we go. Matthew Norton, dude, Watership Down. I had to turn that off as a kid.
No child should be put through that, man.
You think the amount of like news that Mortal Kombat got when it came out as a computer game for having blood, I mean, they were literally just tearing each other apart, these rabbits and stuff. Insane.
Yeah. The other one is, which nowhere near is like a blood and gore, but the Transformers movie is like, they call it like a charge of the Light Brigade for all of your favourite Transformers, because they all die. Basically, the Transformers movie, Optimus Prime dies in the first like 10 minutes. He gets shot to death and dies. And it's like...
I've not seen the Transformers.
Yeah, don't. It's a terrible film anyway. I think that Orson Welles is the voice of the main baddie in it, which is
I'll tell you what else was scary, but not in a... like just one person from a film. The Koopa Troopers in the Mario film.
Oh, yeah.
They were weird.
Yeah. Yeah, the really small lads.
Yeah. Really small lads.
But there's an amazing story behind the making of that film. Oh, the script was being written as they were making it. They didn't know where it was going. None of the cast were happy. No one knew what was happening. If there's a documentary on YouTube, I recommend you check it out, because it's just, I mean, those sort of productions just wouldn't happen nowadays, man. It just wouldn't.
There you go. Matthew Baird, who's one of our YouTube members here, has dropped into the comments saying, so good to have you back, lads. Yeah, thank you. Well, but more, it's so good to have you back.
I like the people who just get off for the summer.
Yeah.
Come back.
Brilliant. Big fan of that. And they come back like, oh, it's great to have you back. We've literally been here all summer. We do this every year. Yeah, great. Right, we've got a more football leading kick-off question before we dive into talk about the Reds. And Benjamin, who's at Ben Rashbrook on Twitter, says, what are your all-time favourite pair of football boots and why, Chris?
My Eleanor, to go gone in 60 seconds on this, is the Adidas World Cups.
Yeah.
Because we just couldn't afford them when I was a kid, like, you know what I mean? So I've never owned a pair of Adidas World Cups, and they're my favourite for looking at.
Yeah.
You've got a pair actually, haven't you now? And so I've always wanted a pair of them, but as actually playing in them, I think I did my best work, believe it or not, in a pair of Patrick's.
Oh, Roy Keane specials. Yeah.
When I was like 10 or 11.
Mad, isn't it?
No pomp, no ceremony, just...
Patrick with one of the least fashionable shoe brands, but in terms of like football, they were actually okay. They were very, very low key. 90 Minutes, you'd have adverts for Patrick in 90 Minutes magazine. Go on, you got a favourite pair that you wore or that you saw?
The only pair I can really think of that kind of meant anything, when I was a kid and the original Predators came out, we couldn't really afford Predators, but a mate of mine had them, and then about 2 or 3 years later, so I'd have probably been about 13, 14, he gave them me. He went, no, I'm not really using them, and he'd hardly worn them. So my first proper pair of boots were the original Predators, man, and you could ping balls with them. They had all those little grooves down.
Yeah, I remember them. Yeah, well, it was Craig Johnson, wasn't it, who came up with the Predator?
There's a documentary about
really?
about like he decided he wanted to make them. He originally took some tread off a conveyor belt and stuck them to a pair of boots, and that was how the original Predators were born. And then worked with Adidas and built them up and built them up and built them up. Yeah, there you go. Facts.
What, from a Liverpool player as well?
Yeah, in terms of owning, like, I've had Mundials and World Cups in later life, well past the time when I actually really need them or need them to play football anymore. But I can afford them, so I'll have them. But like Puma Kings, I can never afford Puma Kings. I had like the second tier, they were called Puma Cups, was the one.
I think I had them as well. Did they still have the full tongue?
They had the full tongue, yeah. There was Diodora, I had a pair of John Barnes Diodora boots, which I grew out of. They were a size 4 when I was a kid, and I grew out of them in 2 weeks because I just had a growth spurt between my birthday and that's it.
Never had that problem.
Never
to this day.
Yeah.
The ones, slow and steady. Doesn't win the race, apparently.
There's definitely like
I would say what I always wanted, lottos, because when we were younger, like, lottos were a bit of a... You just wouldn't see them very often, and like you'd see, like, obviously Serie A was big in the 90s and stuff like that, and a lot of the Italian players wore lottos and stuff. They were cool boots, man.
Yeah, absolutely. And the ones that stand up, but the first time you saw a pair of boots that, like, wow, was probably the Ronaldo boots of France '98.
Yeah,
they were like the
blue and
silver
yellow,
silver and blue ones. And it was like the first time you saw like a space age pair of football boots, and obviously he was amazing in that tournament, apart from the final. A couple of shouts here from Matthew North at Adidas Preds and Pretend I'm Gerrard. Yeah, I had the black pair in when I went to uni in 2001, like the cheapest version of Adidas ones, which were the red and black ones that look like really, really, from a distance you might think they were Predators, but they very much were not. But like, definitely that kind of stuff. Far From You's just sent a super chat in for £1.79. Thank you so much. Gareth Baird. Lads, another question. What happens to Redmen picks at the weekend? Missed most of your videos during the summer. So we actually got a new thing. I obviously, we're not, this isn't sponsored by this week, but there's a thing called Ultimate Fan, which you can check out. There'll be more on our socials about that, which is basically if you've got a Redmen picks account, you can just jump over to that, and it's really good fun. But yeah, more details to follow on the Umbu, I think this week, maybe on that. Or yeah, just check out the Redmen TV Twitter account for more details and all that good stuff. Right, let's have a very, very short break. When we return, we're going to be talking about Norwich City. We're going to be talking about Liverpool's midfield. We're going to be talking about transfers. And we're going to be talking about the catastrophe for a couple of football teams at the weekend to make us feel good. See you in a sec. Hey everyone, our brand new book has landed. Hendo, 10 Years a Red, premium collector's edition, the definitive Jordan Henderson collection in A4 size, 200 pages, full colour, incredible insight, in-depth knowledge and the stories of his rise from a young boy in Sunderland all the way through their academy to the Premier League, taking the captain's armband, becoming the captain and leading Liverpool to be champions of everything and beyond as well. It's got his greatest moments season on season, some incredible, unique, phenomenal custom artwork from some of the best Liverpool artists on the scene, incredible high definition photos of his best moments as well. It is an incredible Jordan Henderson collection and it fits right in your hands, just about. It is a behemoth of a book. It is incredible and it is available right now. You can get it and you can learn more about the Liverpool skipper from the people who are closest to him on that journey. Friends, family, coaches, players and managers. Yes, it is Hendo, 10 Years of Red, and it is available right now on redmenmerch.com. Get involved.
Like tongue in a biscuit tin.
Oh, wow. Okay. Hello. Welcome back. Yeah, if only you could have heard the start of that conversation. Right. Yeah, the Henderson 10 Years of Red book is available right now. The author signed editions are flying out. They're very limited, left in numbers. So if you're going to grab one now before they go. Otherwise, it means Ross has to drive an hour to the distributor to get more to bring them back to sign more. It's not going to happen. So yeah, they get it sorted while you can. Right. Nigel Jones, actually, with the super chat before the break, which we can get to, said I had a pair of Puma Dalglish hat tricks back in the day. But boots, we're clearly discovering that it's all generational football, isn't it? So it's like your favourite players, your favourite boots, your favourite kits, and all that kind of stuff. And we've aged ourselves dramatically by talking. We didn't mention. Oh God, what was the other Mizuno? Oh, yeah. The other great boot brand from the 90s.
If that even existed, to be honest with you.
Yeah, well, until Lazar Markovic turned up for Liverpool and he had Mizuno boots.
Yeah, they went
and then
good.
Didn't sell them very well indeed. No. Yeah, in fact, hang on.
Why would anyone buy them after that?
I think I found a picture. Yeah, there we go. I found a picture of Kenny's hat trick boots. Let me see if I can get this picture up so we can have a little look at that. No, that's it. There we go. There we go. For anyone watching on the video, you can see that's what Kenny hat trick boots look like.
They're cool.
They're good looking advert, that, isn't it? Actually, cool. Right, let's crack on with the footy chat then, James. It was just lovely watching the Reds be back. You know, we were obviously in the studio for it, so we were at the ground, which is galling. But it was just. It's a different world. You don't realise it, and you know, they've tried the best. And when there was 2,000 fans in, that was better than no fans. When there's 10,000 fans in, that was better than 2,000 fans. And they tried the best with that awful piped in noise and all that kind of shite. But there's no replacing it. It's like watching a different sport, and it is literally almost like the last year didn't happen. Feels like we're just back to what the football that we know and love again, on and off the field.
Yeah, there's been certain teams that I think have been affected more than others from not having fans, and I think we're near the top of that pile. For everything that the noise and the crowd bring to our lads. I mean, what did we have? 4,000, I think, away fans. You could hear them over the Norwich fans. You could hear the Virgil van Dijk song. You could hear the Thiago song. Everyone just felt 10 foot tall, and you can see that they play better. They play different. It's a really strange thing. They shouldn't, but there was almost a kind of robotic kind of nature sometimes to the performances. Not, the people have said training exercise, is a term that's been thrown around quite a lot during the pandemic, that it felt a bit safe. It all felt a bit safe for me. There wasn't any, big moments. People often don't take that extra touch or risk that pass, but whereas when you've got the fans there and they're behind you, and, if you pull something off, and, that's brilliant, all of a sudden, wow, do it again, because all these
shot of adrenaline that a round of applause will give you.
Absolutely, but not just from something amazing, from a tackle, from switching the play, from just it can't be underestimated, the importance of having Liverpool fans back.
It's a completely different game, actually, I think, because you've got to manage the crowd as well as the opposition. Now, you think about so many games last season that they were just the same all the way through. That big tackle changes it, and actually, there's a lot of people that say momentum in sport doesn't exist. It might not. The momentum might come from the crowd, and it's a momentum swing from a big tackle or a big save or something like that G's everybody up, puts everybody on edge, and then forces them in a different direction. Liverpool managed the game against Norwich. They managed the crowd. They shut them up, and then all you could hear was our fans. And from that point on, you knew it was only going to go one way.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with that. It's actually a point. Connor S has dropped a super chat in here saying, "Forgotten how much I missed the scream of the crowd when a goal is good." It's all the crap shouts as well. You know what I mean? All the random ones. But I don't know whether you've watched City Spurs at the weekend. We'll talk about it more in a bit later on in the pod. But that result is impossible. I don't think, the last 10 minutes, that game was one of the most enjoyable 10 minutes of football I've watched in 2 years, because it's 60,000 rabid Tottenham fans all screaming the players over the line, and they're flying into tackles, and they're doing, this and that. It's that extra percent, it's that extra depth that you're able to plumb that you don't realise you can until 60,000 people go, yeah, you can. Yeah. Like, go it turns out I can. There's a difference. You can have it anyway. If someone's shouting positive encouragement at you, it's far easier to achieve anything than someone shouting negativity. We're not like communist athletes. You know what I mean? Where you're gonna be sent to the gulag.
The threat of punishment if you give the ball away.
If you're not doing it well, you know what I mean. No, it was great. And the one thing that was interesting, me and Chris talked about this on the show at the time, James, is that the midfield, I don't think it was a spark. I don't think any of the three lads in midfield had like this sparkling 10 out of 10 performance. But what I think the important context of, I think, how the team played was, and I was joking about this, we effectively played 6 wingers in that game, and people are judging our midfield as though they were meant to be 10 out of 10s and everything they did. For a midfield 3, which I think a lot of us would have looked at and gone, not really sure James Milner's a DM. And there's some doubts over Naby Keita and whether he can do it, and there's some doubts over Oxlade-Chamberlain whether he can do it. To put those 3 lads in midfield, I mean, fuck me, Fabinho's played with those 2 lads in midfield and looked like he'd had the hardest day of his entire life, like a couple of seasons ago. Like, he'd come off the pitch shattered. I thought I really enjoyed it from a really subtle tactical way. You didn't see Naby Keita slaloming through midfield. You didn't see Oxlade-Chamberlain doing the same, but I saw 3 lads who could all, on their day, play left or right wing for Liverpool at some point over the past few years, or play like they were playing like in the old school Brexit midfield that goes and shuts the game down.
Yeah, and I think you're right to mention context as well, because I think context in a match like that is really, really important. First game back, away from home, newly promoted side, rabid Norwich fans. You said before, you've got to shut them up. You've got you've got to shut the game down, essentially. You've got to control the tempo. You've got to control so many different aspects of the game. And I thought we managed it fantastically. And I think having, look, James Milner was always going to start for me. You needed that experience somewhere in the park, and I think James Milner does exactly what you want James Milner to do in a game of that that sort of caliber against a team like Norwich. If it's against Chelsea, I think you see Fabinho. There's been there's still been an awful lot of criticism about Naby Keita in after the game and going into the last couple of days, and I feel like it's a little bit unjust. Mm-hmm. And I think what you're saying about the Naby Keita with his slaloming runs and trying to beating lads, that's the Naby Keita that we wanted when we bought him from Red Bull. That was the player that we thought we were getting. That's not the job that he was asked to do this weekend. He was asked to do more of the Wijnaldum role, to break up the play, to dictate the tempo, to just be a pain in the arse basically in the midfield. And that's exactly what he did with aplomb.
And not even so much, I mean, that, but also, Chris, particularly the first half, just play the role. Just pass the ball.
Hey, do you know how I know Naby Keita, Oxlade-Chamberlain and James Milner all played really well? Because we won 3-0. And they're the midfield. That's all of the midfield.
Right.
Yeah. You can't win a game without a midfield playing well.
Yeah.
You just can't do it. And so that means that they all played well and they all did their role. And it means, and I've said this a few times, I've used this phrase, they had to curb their enthusiasm to go forwards
massively.
and do a job for the team. That's what they did.
Your big point for like, you were talking about Thiago with this, is like, it's all well and good talking about how good a footballer Thiago is, but if he can't do all the horrible bits that Henderson and Wijnaldum can do, then he won't play for Liverpool.
No, he doesn't fit. And you know, when you come out in the game and you're talking about Kostas Tsimikas having a good game, and you're talking about Trent Alexander-Arnold having a good game, the 3 forward lads having a good game, there's a reason why they were allowed to go and have a good game. The foundation was put there by the midfield. It's that simple. Naby Keita played really well, and I think there was a tactical tweak at half-time where Liverpool pressed higher up, and we saw an evolution of that even more so when Fabinho came on and Roberto Firmino came on, and we crushed the life out of Norwich in that portion of the game. 45 to 70 minutes, it was game over. Yeah. And then we didn't need to work, we didn't need to overexert ourselves. Alisson comes up with 3 massive saves to give us the clean sheet. Brilliant, because that means something to the lads at the back. That means something to Virgil van Dijk and Joel Matip and Alisson and everyone else. It's a perfect performance, and midfield play well.
There's a subtlety to how Liverpool play and have learned to play since we became really good. And it's a subtlety we didn't have going back to 17, 18, which I always talk about. People like, I think people remember that. And that's weird. They remember Coutinho and his role in it and all that kind of stuff when they talk about Liverpool needing a Coutinho replacement or an attacking midfielder and blah, blah, blah. Liverpool used to start the game with everything they had. So, like, you've got, here's your move, and you throw your big hit move out, so your one big mega punch, and you throw it. And loads of times it would floor whoever we were playing against. But when it never, we had no idea what to do after that, because all of a sudden
you could almost rope-a-dope us if you survived the first 20.
Exactly. And I think City are a bit like that actually at times. You know, I think that's how City lose games of football. It's certainly how they lost at the weekend. But Liverpool don't play like that anymore. Liverpool actually save all their power for the end of football matches. Now, it's not to say they cower in a corner. They're still more than capable of beating you in that first half of footy. But what I'm saying is they don't burn themselves out.
We've got patience now.
Yeah. Well, the point is that the full-backs will get you, or the front 3 will get you. But what we didn't need to do was go to the next gear, which is when you then tell Ox and Keita.
Well, I was saying this on the Final Word show yesterday on the redmentv.com streaming service. You can get involved. Do support us. Thank you very much. It's brilliant. Well, it's as simple as this. Yeah. Why bring extra midfielders and leave the back door open when the front 3 are tearing you to shreds? Yeah. It's just stupid, isn't it? Yeah. It's just stupid. You're risking it for no reason.
Yeah, exactly. And it's because, of course, there's probably a degree to which we want our cake and eat it, and that's sound. Because it would have been nice to have a midfielder score a goal as well, wouldn't it? Well, no one doesn't want that to happen. But
we've been saying that for ages, that, you know, that we want our midfield to contribute more goals. But actually, if our front 3 are doing the business, and you're in a position where you can bring Bobby Firmino off the bench with a big smile on his face, scoring with basically his first touch. I mean, you don't really need anything from your midfield other than, as you say, the really, really simple, sometimes ugly stuff. And, you know, for all of Gini Wijnaldum's wonderful qualities and the amazing performances he put in, and you know, he's part of some incredible Liverpool sides, there were so many games when he kind of goes under the radar and you don't really talk about him, and there's not really a highlight reel. You're aware that Gini Wijnaldum did a load of Gini Wijnaldum shit really, really well. Yeah. And that's how I felt about our midfield. I think in hindsight, I think Oxlade-Chamberlain maybe goes missing a little bit when, you know, in the second half when we are looking for someone to make something happen. But I'm nitpicking, man. I really am. It's really hard to find.
It's the first game of the season.
He had 29 touches. He had 29 touches in the game. I think he completed something like 17 passes. I've seen Wijnaldum go through games and do exactly that when we've won games. Like I wouldn't say anybody underperformed. I wouldn't say anybody had a bad game. If there was one player who could have been more involved, it was probably Oxlade-Chamberlain.
Yeah,
that's as simple as that.
100%. But for me,
you don't need to shout him down. You can say that like that. You don't need to say it's a shit game.
No,
yeah, exactly.
He was fine. He was fine.
Yeah.
And this is the point about this again. You're right. It's context that often gets lost in that. That's Liverpool's second choice midfield. That's an entire
full second choice midfield, yeah.
A full second choice midfield there, and you might argue, you know, Curtis might make an appearance in there, or Harvey might make an appearance in there somewhere down the line. But you know, that's 2 extra lads. For me, and until we see it, you know, it's all up in the air because we literally haven't seen it more than a handful of minutes. For being, you know, Thiago, Henderson, and they're all they're all world-class footballers. Milner, Keita and Ox are not all world-class footballers, they're not. But they've just won a game of football in the Premier League. And again, because they didn't, I think for some it's seen as they're not, it's hard to go, that's what they did. That's how we won it because you're saying it's the guys holding up the performance.
Absolutely.
They're the gears that are making the animatronic moves. You know?
Right. Is this not a thing where we've got a good squad? Rather than going the shit. 100%. I mean, literally our second choice.
No, but it's like going on the Jurassic Park ride, on the theme park and clapping the animatronic dinosaurs and go, oh, these dinosaurs are amazing because look, I'm going, ooh, wow. Whereas really all the work's been done by a load of technicians in the back room that are making the move, and that's the nature.
It's
of
a really
Liverpool.
Nice analogy, Paul.
No, but that's the nature of how Liverpool are constructed, aren't they? I just find, look, again, there's no point getting sucked in on the negativity of it all because there'll always be that. People, I think people have a space in their lives for negativity around
Some
the
of the
football
shouts
team.
on Twitter, but by Redmen contributors, by the way, have been unbelievable.
Is it Sam?
He's talking about Sam.
No, I'm not. No, Sam saves his worst shouts for the group chat, as you well know.
Yeah. Costa Shimakash was really good. Sam was wrong. He was really good. Joe Matip was brilliant.
Yep.
Absolutely brilliant. And we shouldn't be surprised by this because he's been brilliant ever since, pretty much since we
There's no one in world football who's more practiced at coming back in after an injury. Yeah. He's the best at it.
Yeah.
He doesn't need time to get into his role, does he?
Exactly. But like Daniel Sturridge got injured all the time and come back and you'd be like, oh, give him a couple of games and he'll get up to speed and blah, blah, blah. And Ox has had similar things and Keita's had similar things and blah. We've had tons of injury-prone footballers down the years, but you're right. He just comes in and he's just amazing. It was mad because they clearly went. We were saying that I would be targeting Van Dijk. Just test him, go and see how good he is. And they kicked the ball towards Matip and Matip went, all right, sound, bang.
Yeah, in the first 3 minutes, didn't he? Just like, what are you doing, you idiot? I'm like 9 foot tall.
It's all down to his footballing brain. It doesn't really matter, I don't think, to Joel Matip how long he's been out for, or even if he's playing on 60-70% fitness. It's his footballing brain. He's very, very rarely out of position. Very, very rarely. And it's a nightmare because if we're an attacker, like you say, you've got Virgil van Dijk one side. Well, I'm not going to go that way because he's a colossus. Well, I'll go that way. Well, Joel Matip's in exactly the right position to break this down. Yeah. So it's a really, really lovely position to be in for a change. Positive centre back chat.
Yeah, definitely. There's a couple of moments I think, and you can see a couple when they just clip it over Virgil van Dijk, and that's going to be, I think, more tactically astute managers and teams will try that in the next couple of weeks because I'd be wanting to test.
Teams with faster forwards.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Chelsea will be looking for that. That's where Lukaku will be sat. He'll be sat making diagonal runs in behind Virgil van Dijk, trying to
from Matip to Virgil van Dijk.
Absolutely, and it'll be interesting to know because Liverpool are not thick. I think sometimes you see that where people presume that Liverpool are stupid when really we shouldn't, because there's a massive body of evidence to suggest they are dead clever at this stuff. Whether you might see in that for those games someone like Kanate then comes in and that, or Gomez then comes back for that just for the cover and pace of it all. But fine, just to have Virgil back was absolutely lovely. I mentioned it there. I'm sure it's been covered plenty of times elsewhere. Costa Shimikas made up with him so far. Clearly. There's a big. He's gone for a big sleep after that because he looks like he needs one constantly.
He looked white as a sheet when he gave the ball away on the edge of the box. Yeah. He really did.
I did like the moments. Is it Virgil who just shouts in his ear and he's like, "Come on, carry on, keep going, it's fine." Yeah, I thought he was great. It shows, and it's an underrated thing. And this is a bit like the Wijnaldum shot, isn't it, James? Is that we've got good footballers. But some of the lads we've had are not just good footballers; they're absolute machines as well. Andy Robertson is a machine, and there's probably a point where Costas is like, he's looking at the clock and go, "God, 10 minutes."
Like me and five-a-side after 10 minutes.
but it isn't that. But the thing is, we talk about this. It's proper. He's done good in pre-season, but there's nothing quite like you have to do this in a proper match. There's no, I missed that one, I'll get the next one. There's no next one at Liverpool. And he'll learn.
It's the intensity of a Premier League game in a full 90. He didn't get a full 90 in the Premier League last season, did he? So it's his first one, essentially, isn't it?
Away from home.
Madness.
It's an awful lot, and he did, like you're absolutely right. He did exceptionally well. He didn't really put a foot wrong apart from giving the ball away on the edge of the box. But it's great, to have the setup at Liverpool, where there is a direct line to the first team, and players know that, listen, if you work really, really fucking hard and you stick around and you believe in the system and you believe in the process, you will get opportunities. Andy Robbo only gets his opportunity because of an injury. Don't forget. And Tsimikas has, what happens when Robbo's back to full fitness? We don't know, but he's certainly done himself, no harm.
Liverpool are gonna transition over the next couple of years. This we've seen.
Yeah.
Wijnaldum is the first step towards dismantling that first great Jurgen Klopp side, and I wonder whether he's reinvigorated the lads over the summer. Again, a bit of team bonding makes a massive difference, but also to the likes of Keita and Ox and what have you. Because I think there's a problem sometimes where your best players go, and then the lads who are the understudies step up. And my fear is if they've not already usurped them, then you're weakening your side. And I think that's a little bit of the concern around some of the lads that we've got. It would certainly be a concern if Origi started playing football for us regularly, or Shaqiri played football regularly for us, certainly. But I think there's still so much to come from Keita and Ox. And then again, you've got some of the young lads coming through, and Tsimikas might well fall into this as well. But I like this. I agree. I think there's definitely something where Klopp's been like, no, fight, battle, go your hardest, and you'll play football matches. And there's a chance that you won't just play this season. You'll play next season, because Thiago and Hendo are not going to go on forever. At that level. They're not going to be, and neither of them are 50-game-a-season footballers anyway. So, it just bodes really well.
Look, don't get me wrong. I, as a fan, wanted Liverpool and want Liverpool to sign a midfielder and another forward for this season. But I can totally take a step back from being the fan and look at it and go, well, Jurgen's doing that. He's going, we're stocked. We don't need a midfielder. Doesn't matter if we have or haven't got money. Use of the guys. My concerns aren't about whether Ox and Keita are good enough footballers. My concerns are about whether they're going to be fit enough this season. Yeah. It's not about whether, and they're not injured at the moment.
Well, I know, and that's
fingers crossed they stay that way.
And that's the problem, is that unfortunately there's realities of that. We'll do more transfers.
But Curtis can step up. Yeah, Curtis has got room to grow big time. Yeah. And he looks like a machine, a guy who doesn't really miss many games and stuff like that, touch wood.
And you forget that, don't you, as well, like the footballers get better. I know a lot of people waiting for arbitrary Football Manager and FIFA updates to tell them that footballers are better, but you can watch it with your own eyes. Like Trent Alexander-Arnold is the most obvious living proof, and maybe it's just because we've got short memories when things turn around and become really good, that there was a point where he didn't play every game, and we weren't sure if he was a right back, and we weren't sure he was even good enough. And now there's a question that he might not be perfect defensively, but he gets 15 assists a season and scores free kicks, and scores goals now as well. Who's asked? And again, he's 22 years old. There's a chance where you're right. The Curtis Jones stuff doesn't feel great to some people right now because they haven't seen him be a worldie, because he's 19. And his
development's been rushed as well. Kurt Jones, he wasn't supposed to have played as many first team minutes as he had. Let's not forget, he's still a fucking child. Yeah, And
again, and people unfortunately cast jealous eyes over to other football clubs, and they look at Foden again as though Foden was unbelievable at 18.
He's been managed well.
Yeah.
He's been managed so well. They like unleashed him at the perfect time. For 2-3 years, they've been talking about him. Everyone's known about him, and he's been getting really few minutes. Proper, wrapped in cotton wool treatment from Guardiola. Learned the role to the nth degree. Comes in and he's ready. That's what you want.
That's what we've got. And that's why, it's very rare that I, feel any kind of sympathy towards, United and their club. But the way that we manage our youngsters, they must be looking down the road at us and thinking, God, I wish, we should be doing that. Because it's just not the same level of coaching that they're getting that we're getting, It just isn't.
We're going to see the dividends more and more.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just the AXA thing, they've not even been in there a full year.
Yeah.
And you're already seeing it in terms of the lads who are starting to be blooded, you know what I mean? And the recruitment that they've done around that, it's like Kay Gordon playing.
Unbelievable. Well, Harvey Elliott loan as well. I mean, Harvey Elliott come back from that loan. What a player we've got on our hands there.
100%. Just a quick super chat. kind of off topic, but Gareth Baird sent it in a while ago. He says, lads, can we try and get Liverpool to adopt a Northern Ireland chant called The Bouncy? Liverpool, Northern Ireland, YouTube Northern Ireland fans bouncy to see how it's done. I'm sure, I'm not going to do it here because that could be anything. But by all means, yeah, people go and have a look and see what they think on that. Interesting, because we had some conspiracy theories.
Is it a bit like the Torres we're going to bounce in a minute?
Yeah, if that's the case, then do it.
So much.
We now know why Hendo and Thiago weren't involved. It was exactly what we said it was. They weren't fit enough, and they've played a behind closed doors game to get them ready.
Sneaky.
Yeah, they battered. I think was it 4-1 they beat Villa.
Yeah.
Nico Williams scored an absolute screamer. By the way, check that out on Twitter if you haven't seen it already. But again, we were seeing this like, why aren't they involved? Why aren't they this and that? Like, what are they doing? And again, when you win, it helps. Because Pep Guardiola's had a bit of this, where he's clearly trying to get it. You know, he's had the same issues where some of his players who would be playing every week have only just come back to training, so he's not started them and he's not rushing them back in. Liverpool have done that and they've won, so it's fine. But like Hendo and Thiago, there is no deeper lying worry or theory. It's not that Henderson's leaving.
And it's even better because of the contract stuff that's come out as well, isn't it? You know, since the game at the weekend, I saw Gary Neville talking after the Tottenham Man City game about how, you know, Harry Kane's the only one of the England squad who wasn't involved in any of the weekend games. No, that's not true, Gary. Jordan Henderson sat it out as well, mate, because they came back too late and we've got big squads and we can get through without it. And guess what? Spurs got through without Harry Kane and he's back in training and stuff like that, isn't it? So, look, I don't know what's going to happen with Harry Kane and I don't really care too much, to be honest with you. I'd prefer him to stay at Tottenham, don't get me wrong. Yeah. But Jordan Henderson and Thiago playing football for us in a behind closed door friendly is better than them sitting on the bench for 90 minutes.
100%. Yeah, no, absolutely. They need to go to show. This is the point, and again, we miss this sometimes because we just get so focused on the there and now, and this very moment, this minute, this instant. Why is this team? What team are you putting out? Why is it not this and what? The point of having a squad. And again, Jürgen loves it. He loves the challenge, and he loves the idea of getting into the heads of players and going like, what are yous going to do to them today? Nabby. What are you going to do to them? You know,
imagine having 6 centre-halves to pick one for a game of football. He's loving life at the moment, and all of his midfielders can play midfield. He's like, oh my God, kid of Christmas.
He does look relaxed, doesn't he? Got a little twinkle back in his eye.
Yeah, absolutely. No, this is the point, isn't it? You know, again, we don't manage for one game, we manage for the season. Absolutely. And some football clubs don't. And like, again, and it's interesting because you look at just moving on to some of the weekend stuff, you look at Spurs City, which was just delightful, by the way. They threw Grealish in the Charity Shield, didn't he? And they've thrown him in for this game, and he looks really good, by the way. He's a really fantastic footballer. And they've thrown Sterling in, and all this stuff, and that's a little bit of a sign of desperation, which is amazing. By the way, and United throwing their players in and all this kind of stuff. I just think it's great because we've said we can't know what it's going to be like in May, but players who play at major tournaments, and there is actual data on this, but you can follow their injury records in the seasons that follows, and players that play in major tournaments, late in major tournaments, and don't have proper pre-seasons pick up more injuries throughout the season. And Liverpool are trying their best to make sure that that's not the case, particularly because we're going to have to handle AFCON in January as well. You can't afford to have your lads who aren't at that tournament not available for you.
It's just sensible, and if you break the season down into kind of little blocks of games, we've got now until the international break, I think, is sort of the first little period. We've got the Chelsea game in there is obviously the big one. But if we get through that period without any injuries and with some points on the board, I mean, you put yourself in a really, really good position going into the second half of the first half of the season.
Wow, yeah, brilliant. I've just about followed that one. I'm looking at it, and I'm looking at the City team. And I there's two ways of going about it when you've got a new lad. You can do what Jürgen Klopp does, and you can sit them down for a few months and you can train them and make sure they know the system and understand the system and blah, blah, blah. Or there's what Pep Guardiola did. And there's no right or wrong way here, by the way, because I think I look at Manchester City's side and I think there's enough individuals there that can win the games. Yeah. So, and let's be honest, I think the best way of knowing whether somebody understands the system, doesn't just the theory behind the system, but understands the system, is to play games of football in the system. That's what Grealish is doing. He wants to get him up to speed as fast as possible because he knows come the end of the season, City will be better for Jack Grealish, having played 5-6 games at the start of the season. Liverpool, slightly different. Klopp likes to be maybe a little bit more conservative with his players. Maybe we don't have as many guys who can break a game open, win a game through individual moments of brilliance. We rely more on the system, more on the team. And our pressing game's slightly different. We don't control the ball anywhere near as much as Manchester City. So a weak link in our chain in the pressing game halts everything. So I think I understand why Jurgen does it. I also understand why Pep does it, and I don't think he's wrong to do it either. I just thought it was an interesting way to look at it.
It's true, isn't it? But someone like that, I mean, like, we've dropped players in. We've dropped really talented players straight in. Naby Keita starts the season when we buy him because he's that good. And he can just play. And he can just play. You know, some of the players, it took a while to get up to speed, but, you know, Virgil van Dijk, he just comes into the team, no question about it. You don't have to bring goalkeepers up to speed, etc., etc.
Diego Jota,
Salah, man, etc., etc. But the point is that, you know, again, that's the point. Grealish is so good that you can just throw him in who's arsed, and why wouldn't you use your £100 million signing? But to your point, like the theory and reality stuff. You can know I'm supposed to play that pass, but the physical feeling of how much weight you have to put behind that pass is something that comes with actually playing it, isn't it? So yeah, you've got to learn the theory, but you've also got to go and put it into practice. Just on the City stuff, because I absolutely adored the end of that game in particular, because City were battering Spurs, and I turned to my dad at the time and just said, it's just inevitable, this, isn't it? You know, City are just going to score because that's what City do. They were banging on the door, banging, and it was only inevitable. And then obviously Mahrez misses that quite good chance, he puts it wide, and Spurs had give them a couple of like bloody noses on the counter, but maybe they lacked a little bit of pace to get away from them. It reminded me a lot of us in the quarterfinals against them at the Etihad, where we were pinned back, but then we just got one. It was like Oxlade-Chamberlain right at the end of the half. I think we had one little chance, and it was like, ooh,
we can still do this.
We can definitely do something from this. And I think that emboldened Spurs as it went on. And that last 10 minutes was just wonderful.
Without a crowd, does it happen?
No, I don't think so. No. And saying that, City, I don't think City have won at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium.
4 years on the bounce.
Yeah, so
I think he's lost to Tottenham 4 years on the bounce away from home. So yeah. I think it even goes prior to the new stadium.
Yeah, but again, I don't think they've even scored at the new stadium. So obviously, you could argue.
I don't think they've scored in all 4 of those games.
Yeah, you could argue, couldn't you, that maybe. But I think particularly how, given the atmosphere around Tottenham at the moment with all the Kane stuff, I have a sneaky feeling, and particularly if Kane moves, this might be the season where people start to dislike Man City. And I've talked about, there's plenty of people who dislike Man City, but I mean, they've been a safety net for a lot of people's hatred for a while, because you hate Liverpool more, or you hate United more, or you hate Chelsea more. So City are the lesser of the evils.
Yeah, but winning breeds contempt over time, and that's what City have been doing.
And that thing of just buying Grealish means Villa fans now hate them. If they buy Kane, Spurs fans, and Spurs have got a little bit of a rivalry going on with them, going back to the Champions League and stuff. Yeah. But like that,
you've got a rivalry going on with anyone, and no one cares. It's like a fly on your shoulder. You just sort of flick it off. Well, have Spurs fans.
But there's growing feelings of antipathy towards Man City, which is, I think, is necessary, because it'll make the league more exciting. It'll just make the whole endeavour more, like, watching that is because Spurs fans were desperate to get one over on Man City, because fuck you trying to buy our best player for fucking ridiculous money. And I hear from City fans like, well, look, it's just money, and you know, it's just, it's easy to say that when you've got loads of money and you're buying it up, but on the other end, it's horrible. You know, being told you're lower on the food chain. We've had it with Barcelona for years, and it's fucking horrible. And it's lovely being back at the top now. But I agree. I just that them fans just being like, we hate you, and your kit and your faces and your money.
No one needs any more motivation now playing City, and that's what you saw from Tottenham and from their fans. And Nuno, I mean, just massive respect for getting that performance out of his players. But motivation-wise, like you say, you don't have to say anything else other than just fucking ruin these pricks.
Yeah.
Just ruin these pricks.
Yeah, no, honestly,
I'm sick of them.
But like, again, I'm feeling loads better about the season in general. It's one game. and you know, I was listening to a little bit of the Totally Football podcast on the way in before, and they were asking like, what do they think is the outlier in the results there? Of like, what's the freak result of the weekend?
Tell me someone didn't say Liverpool.
No, I don't. No one did. But
we're so far under the radar. No one's even mentioning.
Not many teams won away from home, did they this weekend?
That's true. But there's you have this every year. One game of the season is not going to define anything for anyone. But it was like I was hoping Leeds to do something against Man United, and then United did what they did. I'm like, well, look, knowing that City, one of our rivals dropping points was like, that's normal because because if the big teams won every week, that's what your racket would be.
Yeah.
Or your pools would be, and you'd be laughing. But it doesn't happen because one of the big teams always loses. But you looked at the fixtures and thought, and we were laughing on the build-up show going, Spurs are shit. I looked at it and went, ooh, and there was, Spurs won't do it. And they did, and that's fucking brilliant. And the fallout from it, what I really like, I just want to read a post. So Steve McInerney is a Steam company, good Man City YouTuber. I think he's the only one, but he's really good at what he does. Good lad. And he posted this from a post on Blue Moon podcast on the forum. And it says, what I struggle to deal with is the purpose of being a fan. Moments after a loss, the entire forum is filled with comments like, Pep's arrogance is back, he can't put aside his ego. I just don't understand why he didn't play the best 11, even though half the squad has trained together for the first time 2 days before the match. This 20-year-old bought for 20 million playing out of position is a fraud, etc. Like, as if you're a fan, you're not even attempting to rationalise the decisions taken by the club manager, and especially someone as decorated as Pep. Someone genuinely loves the club and goes to war with the media every week trying to defend us, then what is the point? If you as a fan are not willing to be empathetic towards players who have won so many trophies for us, brought so much joy, who give 100% nearly every match, then who else is going to do it? Rival supporters, the media. I don't get why the fan versus club mentality at all. As if as a fan I'm entitled to perfect performances every week and everyone at the club is slaves to my demands. As if every mistake is a personal humiliation and all the culprits should be flogged in the market square, because the threads after a loss really feel like that. I look at other clubs filled to the brim with players who are absolute disrespectful hacks, and I feel blessed that we've got such a great squad. I learned yesterday that an Arsenal player, Torreira, was posting selfies from Disney World or some shite while they're losing 2-0 to Brentford. Can you imagine Bernardo doing something like that? I mean, yeah, but and I'm not referring to legit criticism of players' performances, because that's warranted sometimes. Maybe Sterling or Jesus or Torres or whoever hasn't performed well, so people have opinions on that. It's all good as long as it's coming from a place of good intention. There's an actual attempt at expressing their opinion. But the hate, anger, and outrage that I see, it's incomprehensible. Whew. Like, a lot of that rings true, I think, with how I've seen our fan base being 100%. On social media, not actually in the flesh at all, by the way. But this is the team that when we're looking at all the things we're saying what are wrong with Liverpool. This is the football club that have got bottomless pits to spend on transfer funds. They've just broken the British transfer records. You know, they're going to do it again for Kane at some point, doubtless in the coming days. So they'll spend £250 million without even being asked about players moving out. They've got the best manager in the world, and I do that in inverted commas because it's actually Jurgen Klopp, you know. But they've got all these things going from everything you could possibly want from a football club. City have got, and they still get that when they lose one game of football. Makes me feel so happy because it shows that there's cracks everywhere, and it doesn't mean that we don't have cracks, but it means that there's imperfections all over the place. So cool. You know what I mean? Like, nothing's set in stone, nothing's written. It's not predetermined how the season's going to go. Every team's going to have their ups and downs. Every fan base is going to have their meltdowns. But the meltdowns of fan bases actually don't necessarily reflect how good a football team is going to be. Just maybe some of the worst of it shows how bad it can be. I've kind of always said,
there was a paragraph in the middle there that rang true for me, is you don't pay your money to go and watch the team win. You pay your money to go and support them and hope that they win.
Yeah.
And that's the difference for me. There's no expectancy when you go to a game of football. You want them to do well, and you hope that they do well, and you hope you're there for something big, a talking point that you can remember in years gone by. But you can't expect that. You're there to support your side. And that doesn't just mean when you go through the turnstiles. That means when you're watching it with your mates at home, however you're typing on social media or whatever it is, you're a supporter of the sides and you want them to do well. And that should be the basis of everything you are as a supporter, and that's it.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Everyone gets annoyed, everyone gets criticisms. My views, as soon as the final whistle is up, is completely different to my views on a Monday morning when I've had a chance to digest and everything. When we
and
do
see the context of the weekend's games as well. Yeah, because how many times massive. We've drawn a football match,
but we end up a point further ahead of everyone else.
Yeah, I remember we drew to Watford opening day 3-3, and it was like, oh God, we've drawn to Watford. What a disgrace! Watford like took points off everyone that season. Like there was some real, and again we've just beaten Norwich, and there's an expectation of, should we have started a stronger team or should we have done more? And Norwich will probably get relegated, but Norwich are also the team that took points off Man City the last time in the Premier League. Now they might not. The odds of City dropping points back to back games, City will probably come and snot them because they're playing them next. But again, it's all possible. It's all possible. I don't mind. Social media is, you're right, it's about immediate reactions, and that's fine. It is what it is. You can't fundamentally change what those networks are for. But there is a degree. What I can't abide is a day having seen how everything else has gone, still sat there seething about a player's performance because it didn't matter because we won. And there's a chance for them to improve it in training in the next game and so on.
A lot of the stuff on social media is, I've said this, and instead of deleting it, I've just got to back this shit up now.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, I think it's
instead of going, you know what, I was wrong here.
I think there's, and I don't want to. It's impossible to know, so I don't want to overgeneralize, because you can be this at any age. But I think there's a lot of young people who haven't learned that your opinions should be malleable. I think I particularly from the age of 19 to sort of probably 30, to be fair, like I was dead proud of my opinions. Look at me with me shiny set of opinions that I've got, and would fight.
You were insufferable.
No, absolutely. But I'd also learned. Yeah, Chris knows. But I'd also learned how to argue and have a debate. I used to get drunk and just have and just take a point and argue it to high heavens, and that happens like all across social media now, where some people do this. The good thing is, I've had people who've had those over the years and have come to me years later, haven't given me loads of stick for saying like, instead of going, you're dead positive, it's because you're in the pocket of the club, instead of going, you're dead positive because you actually, that's how you see it. And then years later come back and going, I'm really sorry, I just had this really entrenched opinion, I've changed my opinion, I realise you haven't. And that's, and I don't expect that. It happens very, very, very rarely. But I think that happens a lot on social media, right? It's people dying on hills for what? Because you've had your fight or flight engaged via your telephone, and you've decided instead of just fucking deleting it because it's somehow seen as like cowardice.
No, it's seen as weakness.
Yeah.
When in actual fact, being strong enough to change your mind and change your mind publicly, or to admit that you're wrong, or to admit that you acted inappropriately or wrongly or whatever, there's a huge amount of strength and maturity in that, and that's that should be celebrated. When people do go, actually, lad, I'd had a bevy, that was a bit of a shit thing to say.
Yeah.
There's a lot of strength in that. But the bottom line is, we're all so lucky as football fans that we get to, we obviously get to do this, which is amazing. But as football fans to have something to celebrate and to support, and to a fan base, and to make friends, and to sing songs, and to be part of this football culture is an incredibly lucky thing. And an awful lot of people in the world don't have that. So it should be celebrated. It should be cherished. And there's far too much negativity. It just doesn't need to be there. For
people look, because you can do the whole without getting full dad on it of like, when your kids don't want to eat the dinner and they complain about the really nice meal you've made, and you're like, there's starving kids in Africa. You know what I mean? And it's a bit like, I don't want to go in there. Look what about the Berry fans who've had the clubs taken off them, because some people don't lack the emotional intelligence to care for the wider, and they end up with this entitlement. So I know it's been a big button of yours for a long time, Chris, is what you were sort of alluding to before. You can't make people have that, but no. You can. But it's not wrong. But it's also not wrong to address it and talk about it, because, as I say, if Man City fans' heads are falling off, who've got every possible advantage in football, then there's probably hope for all of us, to be perfectly honest. Gareth Bear just followed up a super chat before, saying it's just bouncing in the stands. Sounds great. Let's just do that. I'm all up for bouncing in the stands. Le Chill with a £10 super chat. Well, thank you so much. That's lovely. Hi, lads. Jez here from Brighton. Hoping you lads all the best this season. Great start to the campaign. Listen to you lads while stuck in bed with COVID. Be careful out there. We'll get well soon, mate. It is absolutely horrendous if you get it bad. So yeah, hope you're feeling better. I was in bed feeling horrendous after the fucking second jab, so like that which is the worst I've felt since actually having it.
Yeah, me too.
But at least I can go on holiday now, so it's fine. Right, we're going to talk a little bit about the transfers. It kind of ties into a lot of what we've been talking about there, though. Just briefly, Jürgen, we touched upon this, and we did a big old chat about this on the Reds Transfer Roundup show last week, by the way, which is streaming exclusively on the redmentv.com, so do check that out. He basically intimated, Chris, that we're not signing any more players. And what that means is not that Liverpool won't sign any players between now and the transfer window, but he then went and listed all the players that he's got in the squad. Completely forgot to mention James Milner, which is quite funny. But he name-checked Shaqiri in there and the likes of Origi. And I think we sometimes overread and overanalyse Jurgen's things. This one was quite clear to me, is that if Shaqiri moves on, which he probably will, then there's more of a chance that we'll buy someone, because he's not going to buy a player which then leaves another footballer earning a wage from Liverpool and not being able to play football.
Yeah, I think that's right, isn't it? I mean, look, the other thing is we're not buying any more players. You could look at it that way if you so choose. And on the evidence of so far this season, I'd say that's probably more likely now. But that, if we get people out and there's time for us to buy, and they're in the right sort of bracket for what Liverpool want, and they're the right age, the right price, and everything else, and maybe the team wants to sell or whatever, then Liverpool may do something. I wouldn't hold my breath on Liverpool making a signing before the end of the transfer window, personally. I think the other thing that he mentioned in another interview a few days ago, which I think we're going to talk about a little bit later on, is that thing of we spent our money on Ibrahim Konate before we sold. And that's probably where I'm looking at and going, okay, that's probably the biggest hint as to what's actually going to happen.
Well, it's an interesting point, because you're right, because obviously Jurgen was talking about how clubs do the business. And look, there's no... him calling out PSG, Chelsea and City... We're all doing it. We're all having these conversations. I've got no problem with our manager addressing those things. Yeah, he mentioned Man United in there, which then sparked Laurie Whitwell, I think it is, from The Athletic, to write a piece about explaining to Jurgen. He's athletic-splaining, which is a new term for the Athletic, who know more about everything in football than everyone, speaking to the common man and explains to them how football actually works. He athletic-splained...
Well, I hope to God you learned something from reading that piece.
He athletic-splained that the reason Manchester United can do that is that, although, yes, they've lost lots of money, and they're in a real, not in a particularly healthy financial situation, and yes, the Glazers have taken billions out in debt and all that kind of stuff, that they've got good revenues, and yes, those revenues have gone lower. So, but they're still steady, they're still fine. But I need to find the actual line on here.
Can't afford to fix the roof though, can
United's healthy, but he mentions, like, obviously Barcelona are in absolute state, and Real Madrid are in a state, and Inter Milan are in absolute state. And he said COVID-19 may have cost United around 150 million in expected income owing to behind closed doors matches, but commercial revenues have incubated the club from excessive trauma, and the multiple sponsorship model instigated when the Glazers took over of United has won Liverpool have embraced themselves, leading to the financial gap closing between England's two biggest clubs. And it goes on to talk about their revenues and saying United earn more revenue than Liverpool, but basically saying...
About 20 million more, isn't it?
By 20 million, yeah, absolutely. And they said Liverpool, Man United were budgeting for one big marquee signing, and they've deferred payments over a number of bits. We said basically the signing this summer only cost them... It's only costing them £23.5 million.
Well, actually, that's not what he says. He guesses those numbers.
Yeah, he does. He does.
He guesses those numbers.
He does.
Because he said, well, if we just spread that fee over 5 years equally, then it would only be 23.
Yeah.
But then he later says that actually most big payments, the biggest payments are in the first year, so he goes back on what he's saying.
He says the exact terms
Sounds like
are
he
known.
doesn't know what he's talking about, actually.
The exact terms are known only to those who have seen the relevant documents. Okay. So, not him. Initial payments can sometimes be larger than the rest, but split evenly, it would mean, if it was split evenly, it would mean United's outlay on those two players is total slightly more than 23.5. And you go, okay, cool, and that's fine. And then it goes on. Even considering
made $3.5 million back, didn't he?
Even considering they made a quarterly net loss of 23.2 million as recently as last October, that is patently a palatable sum of money. For example, United brought in 62.6 million commercial in the 3 months from December last year, a decrease of 11% from 2019, but steady enough. United's payments this summer are not consigned to Sancho and Varane, though. Donny van de Beek's 40 million fee was also stretched out. Through the number of years has not been disclosed. It seems reasonable to calculate that United were due to pay guess that United will pay 10 million. So it's not 23 million. It's add 23 million, add the 10 for Van de Beek. And they said, well, hang on, it's offset because United are due 3.4 million from a sell-on clause from Lukaku. Whoa. For instance,
Jurgen Klopp really gets on people's
but Jurgen Klopp going, I don't know how United do it. Even the fucking Athletics fucking chief football writer is trying to let explain it to us, doesn't understand. No. So of course Jurgen Klopp doesn't fucking understand how United have got the money. But it's just, but you're right to Chris you're saying it. They're going, for instance, money owed by the Italian side on the original £74 million transfer has also been paid over instalments as per the agreement. So they're saying they're still owed Lukaku money, which they might be, because people are saying about like the Coutinho stuff, but then there's also people who say to us and saying, well, no, Liverpool sold that to another company, so they got their money off someone else. And again, this is all guesswork. And it's saying, oh yeah, and it goes, Aston Villa will also be paying a loan fee to United for Axel Tuanzebe.
There you go.
Yeah, there you go.
That'll do it. That's why you get Varane through the door with Sancho.
So what they're saying is, United are fucking mate. I've still got massive revenues, but their revenues are lower than ever. They've lost loads more money than ever. But they're still. But basically what they're saying is they're comfortable spending beyond their means. United can do that because they have got loads of that stuff going for them. But the point is, United are far closer to Barcelona. Us, United and Barcelona, as it turns out, are in similar sort of boats because we're not owned by countries and multi-billionaires who are prepared to bend every rule to hide that money, and do whatever needs to be done. But Man United, I need to be careful, because if that doesn't work, then they're going to end up on the path.
They've been rolling dice for 7 years.
Yeah, but what does look like success to Manchester United and Manchester United's board? Is it trophies? Is that what? Because it doesn't seem.
Eventually it has.
Well, no, but that's what's important to the fans. Is that necessarily what's important?
No, it's
to their shareholders? Yeah, the Champions League
it's the dividends.
Exactly. So so success to the Manchester United board, it doesn't necessarily equate to winning a Champions League.
It's keeping it going, isn't it?
It's keeping it going, and if they've been doing this for 7-8 years, however long they've been doing it. This sort of cycle of investing beyond their means. They don't sell many players for a lot of money, do they?
No, because the players are biased shit.
That's bizarre.
You're not getting 80 million. You're not getting a return on investment from.
That's what I'm trying
Maguire,
to say. That's
you
what
were
I'm
moving
trying to
Harry Maguire. Now you might, like, if Sancho moves on, and that's they have done some really good recruitment. Let's not sit here and say we wouldn't have had Sancho. And in another world, we wouldn't have been more than happy with Rafael Varane. Like, if you told me that Virgil was done and you needed to go out in the market and buy a senior centre half, and we'd have been all, I'm saying we probably would have been all over Rafael Varane. If Virgil van Dijk had just dropped dead, we'd have to go out and buy someone of his stature. That would have been great. So they've got brilliant players. They've got a brilliant squad. They've got an iffy manager, but maybe by all accounts, who's getting better in the job. So he might do the business. It's all fine. But again, I as you're saying, I love the fact that Jurgen he's just. Everyone just looks at what he does.
You fall into a trap there that I think every football fan at some point during the season falls into. You're saying the great signings, you don't know that. Yeah. Because Varane was a great signing and Shevchenko for Chelsea was a great signing and everybody else. They're good players, but whether they're a great signing for that club is yet to be seen. Yeah. Bruno Fernandes, great signing. I think everybody can now say after a full season, we all thought it was going to be, and he's proved to be. Donny van der Beek, not so sure.
Yeah. No,
so this is what it comes down to. It's how they perform in that side. I think Sancho will be brilliant for them. I think Varane will be really good for them, but we don't know that necessarily yet.
Exactly that, And again, it's one of those things at the moment. Everything's flying. I'm seeing our Man United friends going on about the winning the title this year and all that. Yeah, acquaintances, business associates. But yeah, peers. Yeah, but yeah, right. It's what. They're lovely. They're all fine in their own way. They just support a terrible football team. Again, it's one of them. It's one of them for me, and it goes back to the Liverpool's transfer situation here. In fact, it's mentioned in that article as well, and it's something that's a consideration. They've now got to move players on. They've now got 2 weeks to bring some of that money back in. Otherwise, they will be in a spot of bother. And the problem is, the market is, nobody knows what the transfer market's going to be like. It's going to be a fucking shit show one way or the other this next couple of weeks. And part of me is glad that Liverpool aren't in that. And if anything, Liverpool are, because of how smart they are transfers. I trust Liverpool to come out on top, because we've got people who are very good at transfers at the football club. They're very good at extracting value when they move players on. They're very good at getting good deals for players when they bring them in. So it's your point, Chris. The good thing is I'm not arsed. Yeah. If we don't sign anyone else, I'm a bit laissez-faire about it. I'm a bit que sera. I'll shrug my shoulders, and if Liverpool don't win the title, they don't win the title. that won't, and we can maybe look back on it like we did last season and go, we should have bought a centre half, and that's why Liverpool were absolutely fucked. It wasn't. It was that we needed to buy 3 centre halves because we could have bought a centre half, and we still needed to buy at least 1 in January on top of that, and which you then got injured anyway.
Turns out we had the lads at the club.
Yeah, exactly. I personally think we'll be all right. I think we'll be more encouraged if we
feel much better now than I did a month ago in terms of signings. Yeah. I was part, I think we were all part of that kind of looking down our squad list and thinking he's injury prone, he's getting old. There's questions about over a few of them, but like we said at the top of the show, if everybody stays fit, then this team can go on and achieve more great things than they already have. I'd love, I would still love Divock Origi and Xherdan Shaqiri to both leave. I think they've both had their time, and I think Divock Origi's got an awful lot. I think they both have, but I think Origi's got an awful lot to offer a club lower down the Premier League. Mm-hmm. He really has, and if he's got any ambition at all, any desire to go on and further his career, he'll leave, and so will Shaqiri.
Yeah, our squad is not a crap squad. If they're the weakly, if they're the dead wood in our squad, then it shows you how brilliant our squad is, as far as I'm concerned. Because their only problem is that they don't fit naturally into what we do. But if we've seen a number of times over the years, as a break glass solution, if everything else is falling apart and everyone's dead, you're having a mad crisis, having those lads and just throw them into it, isolated games here and there. That better than throwing, you'd be trusting Xherdan Shaqiri in a Champions League semi-final over Kate Gordon.
Yeah,
and that's the reality. Now, if they let him go and they leave us with that situation, that's a slight concern. Unless this kid ends up burst onto the scene and becoming an absolute worldie, you know what I mean? But I'm kind of okay with it. I wish there's part of me that kind of looks at a lot of the ire and the fury and kind of I feel like I missed. I
think I've always got angrier quicker than you when it comes to the football team. I think generally speaking, I'm pretty laissez-faire on the footy, but there is a point where I'll go, fuck this, like we need to change. I remember it happening about Coutinho and stuff like that after that. But I definitely feel like the pandemic's made everyone worse for that. Like the anxieties have all been at the surface. Not being able to go and show your support and almost affect football matches, whether it's true or not. Yeah. I fucking believe that I affect with the people that I'm around in the ground, affect how the team's playing. So I feel more just excited that I get to go back into the ground and enjoy football the way I've been brought up on football.
Football is definitely harder on people who are surrounded by fans of other football teams, I think. Like, and I see a lot of, and this is, because you can be, by the way, and it doesn't need saying because we've been saying this for years. It's very, very much our take on this. You can be a diehard Liverpool fan from anywhere on the planet. I'm not asked. I don't care whether you got a purple bin or not. As long as you love the football club and you buy into it, you know what I mean. Then you can be from wherever. But
this is the only club where people from around the world seem to buy into the culture of the football club.
Exactly.
You don't see that with other fans of other clubs.
Exactly.
Either.
I think people, you have it sometimes where people try to not have that, and I think we've seen a little bit of a rise of that through lockdown and social media. People want it to be the way they want it to be, and for whatever weird little world some of those people live in. But the point is, I think if you're, and I see it from the lads who live in London, who've got Chelsea mates and United mates and Arsenal mates, and and it's like being in a WhatsApp group with lads. You're never safe. you're never safe from being the target of the abuse and bullying. If something goes wrong, you say the wrong thing in the wrong way, and you're getting it. And so, like, there's a thing where I think people live in more of a cauldron in sort of environment where they need Liverpool to be perfect every week.
Well, they need to put their own shield up. The Liverpool are their shield almost from abuse, aren't they?
Exactly. And I think people have to be more public in that, like you feel like you have to wear your shirt a bit more, but when you because that's an shirt to identify us for people around the world, whereas people in Liverpool don't wear them as much because you don't need to, because it's just part of your DNA as much as anything else. But when you do that, you're putting a banner up, and I've had it where I've had a Liverpool trackie on, and someone in KFC in a service station driving down the country's gone, "Oh, Slippy G," and I'm like, the fuck are you talking about, you fucking weirdo? Because he's seen the Liverpool badge and thrown that at me apropos of nothing.
I'm made up with that.
Yeah,
Can I tell you what happened to me in a service station the other day? I've not told anyone this story. I was waiting for a good time, and it kind of links in, right? So I was in a petrol station with a shop and all that type of stuff, Costa machine and all that. Driving home from the caravan, get there outside having a coffee. I've been watching loads of that video where the fella on YouTube basically like pranks people like squirting water guns when he's on the other side of the aisle and stuff like that.
Great. Puts a box on their head.
Yeah, brilliant. And all of a sudden, I'm wearing shorts, by the way. I've got wet legs. Turn around. What the fuck's going on? Fella walking off over there. Carry on making me latte anyway. Wet legs. What the fucking hell's going on here? I'm right by the exit for the toilet, and the fellas who aren't drying their hands are coming out, flicking their fucking hands, and the water's going all over my leg. 3 times while I was making a coffee, three different fellas came and flicked their fucking pissy hands on
Vaguely
me.
pissy hands on your legs. There you go.
Don't wear shorts in service stations.
Fantastic. Would it have been better if you'd been getting pranked?
I don't know.
Yeah,
I'm not
it
sure.
would have
I
been.
think so. It would have been clean water.
Yeah, it's yeah. There you go. Fantastic. Yeah, yeah. So it's something to be aware of, and I say this.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Don't wear shorts in petrol
Don't
stations.
stand outside. Yeah.
Don't put your coffee machine by the exit to the men's. Is what I'm saying, Costa.
Yeah. But yeah, there is a point again. It's about trying to be. The footy's back now, so like. It's up to the lads to do it. Jaeger and the boy, they'll have what they have. And I know
Pissy pay, Jack. Fucking and have that all through Rudston. Like, you know what I mean? With fucking junior school, yeah. Fucking,
Yes, Liam.
and or if it wasn't Pissy pay, Jack, it was Chrissy Pissy. You know what I mean?
You've had a hard life, haven't you, mate?
Tell you, mate.
Yeah.
Brings you down.
No,
Yeah.
I think the point you're trying to make, or certainly as I interpret it, the football's back. We've got 90 minutes to sing some songs, have a really good time, and support these lads that we've got. And that's kind of where it begins and ends for a lot of people. Obviously, we get to do shows and stuff, and talk about it and tear it apart after the game. But for the majority of people, just enjoy what is a really wonderful time to be a Liverpool fan. These players,
we're gonna win a lot of games.
Yeah.
We will lose some. We will draw some. It will happen. We may win everything. We may win nothing. But as long as but it goes back to that point, and I think people have forgotten this because we didn't get to really see us win the title. I think as fans, we don't know what it's like to win the title. But this team knows. This team actually does know how to do it, and that's important because it didn't not happen. It very much happened. They put all the hard work in. They absolutely pissed that league, and they've got they've got the experiences and the calm and all that stuff that goes with it. I don't think as fans we have, and I think we need to remember sometimes that look at what we've got and look at what we've done. And again, in no way, shape or form is this a worse squad
It's a better squad.
than the team that won the league.
It's a better squad.
Yeah.
It's got Thiago Alcantara in.
And you look, and my only point on this is that all the other clubs have added these players, and they've added players that can be good. Like City cannot be better than Centurions, and we've been very close to that team for a number of seasons. City might win it, but I can't see Liverpool being 20 points behind Man City this time around. And the also point of that of buying players in means players need to gel and they need to take time, and it might take half a season. There's a reason Chelsea have got a title winning squad, but weren't capable of winning the title last year because it took half a season to get the players up to speed and the right manager.
Yeah, Chelsea are really good, right? But let's not forget that they were struggling at the end of last season to hold on to top four. I know they go on and win the Champions League and stuff like that, but they're not perfect yet. I think they're a long way from perfect. They've got great players and they've got a good manager, but they're a long way from perfect yet. And I think Liverpool can be perfect.
Yeah. No, exactly. Completely agree with all that. So I think things are good. I think everyone's feeling generally quite good. I always say about this is that it's hard to gauge the barometer of fans, and the problem is, and I said this years ago about there'll come a point where clubs will start to judge how fans think based on what they're seeing on social media. And unfortunately, we've had a year where social media has been it. That's been the only way you can get near fans, and so people have unfortunately started to think that that's the real thing. And there's a lot of people who go on there looking for help and support and see the toxicity and go, oh my God. And some people either go, okay, that's what it is then, and pull it over themselves and go and become part of it. Other people pull away from it. I always say, in terms of people I speak to in and around the city, I don't feel that. I don't get it. I don't get any sense of that, and that's always a pretty good problem. Not to say there's not negative people in Liverpool. There definitely are. Mostly they support Everton, but it's fine. Right, cool. Boss Podcast guys, thank you so much for joining me for that one. I just want to check I've not missed any super chats. I have not. You guys are amazing. Have an absolutely amazing week. We'll be back with the build-up show on Thursday, I think, Wednesday or Thursday. There's also going to be the Reds transfer roundup show, so if you want more transfer chat, we're going to be talking Jordan Henderson contract stuff, the potential of Salah stuff, any more news on player outs, that's going to be on that one, and then Neil Jones will be in for Transfer Insight on Thursday as well, so do check that out. Other than that, have an amazing day. We'll see you all soon.